going on, guys? Welcome back to this week's episode of Outside the Arena with Rob and Griff. I'm Griff and Senek, joined by my co-host for the first time in a little bit, Rob Goldberger. He's back this week, back from vacation from the holidays, but we're back. We're in full force once again, and a lot of headlines and stuff to cover. We've seen the college football playoff take another step. We've got the finals, I believe, on Monday is when they will occur. We've got the final week of the regular season for the NFL, and obviously last week saw maybe the biggest story of the season, I would argue, with Antonio Brown. We're going to get to that, but first, we're going to talk about the college football playoff and the championship game between Georgia and Alabama. Obviously, the two semifinal games took place, and both teams really won without much of a fight from the other. It was a pretty, Georgia blew Michigan out, and Alabama just held Cincinnati. They just held them out of reach essentially for the whole game. It wasn't a blowout on the scorecard, but at the end of the day, it wasn't really close. So those two teams will play once again, obviously, in the SEC championship. We saw Alabama win. So Rob, my question to you is, do you think we'll kind of see that same result that we see in the SEC championship, or do you think Georgia's going to be able to reverse the result, figure some things out, and win this game on Monday?
I'm gonna go with Alabama, just because they're Alabama. And it's pretty crazy because they were supposed to be in a rebuilding year this year, and they're just not at all, because a lot of their seniors had left last year, and their senior class was considered their weakest recruiting class when it had happened. But yeah, they're just a machine. I'm going to go with Alabama, even just because, I don't know, I think they'll just be able to replicate that first result. I think they're too much for Georgia. I think they probably always will be. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. And my reasoning for picking Alabama, honestly, I think it looks at the quarterback position. The quarterback, regardless of the level, is the most important position in the sport. And you've got one quarterback on one side, Stetson Bennett, I believe, will be starting. He's played good. He's done good. But, the other quarterback is the Heisman winner, the best quarterback this year in the nation, Bryce Young. Potential, as of now, I'd say he'll be the first draft. He'll be the first overall selection in next year's draft, with C.J. Stroud likely going number 2. But Bryce Young is just an absolute superstar, and he makes plays happen. We've seen him have some struggles. He hasn't had the best of games. That Auburn game comes to mind. He kind of struggled at times. But, this is a kid who's proved that he's elite. He's played well these last few weeks. And this is Alabama, like you said. This team, one of the best coach teams, even in the NFL level, you can look and say Alabama's better coach. They've got, great coaches, Nick Saban, obviously, but Bill O'Brien's done a good job there as well. They've just got an exceptional level of talent. They've got players everywhere that can, first round picks galore. So, yeah.
I'm sure it's the only college football school, or the only college program with a former NFL coach as their offensive line coach. So, yeah.
Yeah. And obviously Bill O'Brien, he wasn't a bad head coach in the NFL. He's got, I think the Jags or other teams are interested in him.
I'm not really sure if that's the hire I would make if I were the Jaguars. I'm not really sure.
I agree. I think the Jags are, we'll see what happens with their head coach search. But yeah, I'm going to go with Alabama. I think Georgia's a good team, and they've got a lot of weapons to him. We saw in that Michigan game. There's a lot of guys that they can throw the ball to, a lot of good defensive playmakers they have. But I just think Alabama's going to have the edge. Just at the quarterback position, I just think that difference is just too much to overcome in a game like this. So I'm going to go with Alabama as well. And I think that does that for the for the college football, really. We'll talk about the result next week, and then from there, we'll be doing mock drafts down the line once the NFL season, once we get closer. We'll start rolling those out again. I know we did that last year on the channel. We did about 5 or so, and those are really fun. So should be good. It looks like Aiden Hutchinson will be the first pick as of now, but
I don't think so.
Oregon. I think he had a rough game against Georgia.
I think it's going to be Thibodeau, and I do think Thibodeau is better, to be honest. I think I've maintained that really throughout, I believe, the whole season. But I just think he's in a tier of his own. Thibodeau at the top. He's a beast. But the Jags are just a disgraceful franchise. Back-to-back number 1 overall picks. That's never a good sign. The Browns did it. They hit big on one. Looks like they missed on the other. But yeah, it's just bad. Jacksonville is a bad franchise.
Yeah. They are definitely in a bad spot. Trevor Lawrence is not – I think a lot of people are giving him a pass this year, but, he has been pretty atrocious, to be honest.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think I would probably give him a pass. I mean, his top receiver was. Do you know who his top receiver was this year?
Yeah, Marvin Jones Jr.
I mean, it was really Laquan Treadwell though, which is pretty disgraceful. I mean, his offensive line. I mean, he had to work with Urban Meyer for 14 games this season. I mean, I think you got to give Trevor Lawrence a pass for this year. I think you can really. Well, I think Jacksonville needs to hire definitely an offensive minded head coach next year. And I think they need to just build around him. They need to get him a receiver. I mean, they can't do it. It's a shame they even have the number 1 overall pick because they just need. If they might have to take an offensive tackle and even pass up on Thibodeau because they need to help there. I mean, their offensive side of the ball is one of the worst units statistically ever, really.
Yeah.
So,
we will see. But with that, we're going to jump to the NFL. Obviously, I guess there's football going on right now. The Chiefs and the Denver Broncos are playing. Seems like not too much going on there. Obviously, the Denver Broncos. Seems like Vic Fangio will finally be out. I saw a report today that it seems like his days are finally done. Took 18 weeks longer than you probably predicted at this point.
I mean, listen. I mean, look at the Giants. Jesus, just what a disaster. I can't. There's no shot there. Did you see Joe Judge's post-game interview?
Yeah.
I mean, they can't keep him next year. They can't possibly keep him next year.
They're saying he's
that's their
going to
plan.
stay.
Listen, as an Eagles fan,
Danny Dimes is going to stay as well.
I fully endorse this plan as an Eagles fan. I fully endorse it. Yeah. I mean, how do you lose by 26 points to the Bears? I don't care who your quarterback is. They're starting Andy Dalton on the other side. I mean, this is disgraceful. This is disgraceful. I mean, I just think Giants ownership has run them into the ground completely.
Yeah, it's a mess over there. We're not going to spend too much time on that. We've already talked about them a lot. We got to start off with this Bucs-Jets game, and obviously the story we're going to talk about here is the Antonio Brown saga. And I mean, this is just something that I've never imagined seeing. Obviously, I mean, Lev Bell and him on the same team again. That's just funny to see. But I mean, he's obviously been released. Obviously, he went on, the Nelk Boys podcast the other day, said some interesting things. I mean, it just seems like this guy's kind of asking for help at this point. He needs it. He's just kind of he's always into trouble. But I'm real quick going to talk about, and I'll pass it to you to talk about it. But on the Jets side, I just want to say Braxton Berrios. I think they might have struck a little gold here. He's been a very good special teams player here, and he looks pretty explosive. I mean, this kid can make plays, and that's what the Jets are they're crying for someone to at least make plays. And Michael Carter looks good. I think he's got a good future with the Jets. Zach Wilson actually played really well in this game, but Braxton Berrios, I mean, with the work he's getting, he's going to be out this week, I believe. So his season looks to be over, but I mean, he looked pretty good. They were able to use him in a lot of different ways. And I think this is just, I mean, we've seen a lot of these good NFL teams. It seems like they always kind of have these guys that they can mix and match and put in different places, run the ball with, and, really set on, in the slot and anywhere. And I think Braxton Berrios is a potential nice piece for the Jets going down the line. Not a superstar receiver. I'm not saying this guy's going to be a wide receiver 1, but I mean, in rebuilding teams, these are kind of the pieces that can make a difference. Just that guy that, fills in a slot that you can trust, that the quarterback looks at. So I know you're smiling over there, but I just want to say that, I do feel Braxton Berrios could be a nice piece for them for the future. Wide receiver 3 on a decent team. I think he's got some good potential, good special teamer as well. But what do you think? Your whole thoughts on, obviously?
I just didn't expect you to lead this. I just didn't expect you to lead this off with a Braxton Berrios prop. But yeah, I mean, I think the issue with Antonio Brown is that the divorce is always going to be messy, and I mean, I think he's sort of just a ticking time bomb. And you're right. I think he obviously needs help, but I think he's just so self-destructive. I mean, his comments on that podcast are ridiculous. Why am I not the top paid guy? Because you're on a deal to show that you're not crazy, and you failed that test. But I do want to touch on how freaking great Tom Brady was in this game. I mean, that game-winning touchdown throw was maybe the throw of the season in the NFL. I mean, he zipped that in there. He was great. I mean, he's terrorizing the Jets still, obviously. You know about that, Griffin, very well.
And Gronk, of course.
But I just don't get Antonio Brown's logic here. I mean, I think Obviously, a lot hinges on if those text messages are real. If they are real, then he probably does have some ground to stand on, some legs to stand on. But if they're not, then that's an even worse look on him. And it's hard to trust him at this point just because of everything. I mean, even this season he was suspended. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. But can't say I'm that surprised. Obviously, in the manner which he did, it was shocking. But can't say I'm not surprised something like this happened.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, things were looking good for him. I mean, you look at last year, and obviously he had the suspension, and then came and played well for the Bucks. Had the touchdown in the Super Bowl, re-signed, and there was not really much trouble those first 5 6 weeks. You know, things were going well. He was playing well. It really looked like things were going well, and then you hear these things about the fake vaccine card. He gets suspended for that. He's hurt. And then obviously this whole issue, and then you hear that he's sneaking, OnlyFans models into his hotel room. I mean, it seems like it's never ending with this guy. Like you said, I believe that he's played his last snap in the NFL. I think that this is the last straw. I mean, you look at the opportunity that the Bucks gave him. I mean, they gave him a chance to be on a Super Bowl team, and yeah, he argues he wants to be paid like a number one receiver, but those days are done. Yeah, he might have the talent, but I mean, we saw what happened, in the Vegas Raiders. He never suited up for a game, I believe. I believe he was gone in the preseason. I mean, teams just don't want to take that risk, and I really believe without Tom Brady. I mean, I know he was kind of hating on Tom Brady a little with his comments the other day, saying that he's not really his friend. The only reason Tom Brady was friends with him was because he was good at football. But I really believe without Tom Brady, I mean, this would have been a blow up within weeks, probably, of him signing. I mean, I think this guy is just a nightmare, and I think the Bucks have, I think they're on a tight ship. It sucks for them because obviously, as much of a head case that AB may be, he's a good football player, and with Chris Godwin being out for the year with the torn ACL, they're weak at wide receiver. They're going to need guys like Cyril Grayson, Tyler Johnson to step up now. And this team's banged up. I honestly don't think they'll repeat as Super Bowl champions, even with Tom Brady. You can never doubt him out, though. That is one thing I'll say. But I just think they're very banged up right now. I mean, they've got a lot of key players injured. We'll see, but obviously not the situation you want for Tampa Bay. And I mean, yeah, what a mess. That's all. That's what I'll say.
The mess, but they still might be my favorites to come out of the NFC just because of that man at quarterback. I mean, he had an unreal game, Griffin. He was unbelievable. He made Cyril Grayson look like a star. I mean, maybe Cyril Grayson is a star. No disrespect to him, obviously, but I mean, 6 different teams in like 2 years. I mean, Tom Brady is it's what he does best: make average receivers, maybe even below average, and make them great players, make them great, useful players. I mean, look at the ball distribution. I mean, 4 to Evans, 4 to Tyler Johnson, 7 to Gronk, 6 to Cyril Grayson. I mean, he's just what a player Tom Brady is at age 44. At age 44, it's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. You're absolutely right. Obviously, Green Bay has locked up that 1 seed.
Travis Kelce touchdown. Travis Kelce touchdown.
Needed that in my fantasy, but he got COVID and then I lost. So bit of a touchy subject. I mean, going back to some of these games, Chiefs Bengals, we have to touch on. I mean, this is, I mean, the
Great
Cincy
win.
Bengals, man. I mean, this team is.
That was it was a great win. Obviously, that offense is unreal, but there was some questionable refereeing at the end all throughout that game. Really, the 3rd and 27 call. I wasn't so sure about that illegal hands to the face call at all. I mean, there are some questionable calls. I think there's a really significant chance that these might be the 2 best teams in the AFC. I really do. I think obviously you have the 2 AFC teams, but these teams are very strong and their offenses are very, very, very strong. Jamar Chase. I mean, Jesus, this guy can play. I mean, Tyler Boyd as a weapon to have as your wide receiver 3, and obviously Joe Mixon can catch the ball out of the backfield. He's one of the best at that in the NFL at the running back position. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals, what an improvement. I mean, you got to give credit to Zach Taylor in the front office. I mean, Joe Burrow, he has surpassed my expectations, certainly coming off the injury. I think he should probably be the comeback player of the year.
Yeah.
And I, to be honest with you, I'm really not too concerned about the Chiefs. I don't know if you are, but I'm really not too concerned about them. I think they just lost a shootout to a really, really great offense. And I mean, this is the reality is that this is what it takes to beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and it's very hard to replicate, and very few offenses and very few teams can do it. And this really wasn't even Kansas City at their best. I'm still a believer in KC to come out of the AFC, and they're probably my Super Bowl favorites at this point. Still, I just think once that offense is really shaping into form, and Mahomes, I mean, I think he had a pretty good game. I just think they really didn't see the ball in the second half. I mean, they were up 31-14 in the second point. I mean, the Cincinnati Bengals really dominated that Chiefs defense in the second half. Obviously that Chiefs defense remains a little bit of a question mark, but I'm still confident in the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean the Chiefs, they're my AFC favorites as well. I mean, this is a great ball club. I mean, Darrell Williams has been great for them this year. Obviously, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, is he playing right now? If he's playing right now, no, I believe it's Darrell Williams' game.
Yeah,
I might be wrong. Yeah, Darrell Williams. So, I mean, we'll see if Clyde can come back. It looks like Tennessee, I mean, somehow that team is going to be the one seed. I truly believe they'll get bounced immediately in the playoffs. Yeah. But, yeah, I mean, Joe Burrow, I mean, this guy is just unreal. He's, I mean, this offense is in the NFL. I mean, I don't know which, I mean, the Chiefs, you got to look up there, and then, I mean, this might be number 2, honestly. I mean, I really don't know who can beat this. I mean, this, the O-line, if they got a really good O-line, this would be unstoppable. You see Joe Burrow.
Yeah, that's the issue. That O-line is
mid. It's suspect.
Mid. Not maybe below mid even. I mean, it's just really not.
But you look at what Joe Burrow's doing these last 2 weeks. I mean, this guy is just incredible. I mean, him and Justin Herbert, I mean, those two, what a quarterback class. I mean, obviously you've got Tua, who has played well this year. I mean, I'm going to give him credit. I was not high on him. He's played better than expected, at least. They've kind of found his system, at least. He's not as talented nearly as these two guys, but within the right system,
I'm not sold on Tua at all.
I'm not sold either, but I'm saying within the right system, that Miami established a solid system for him where we saw him able to have success.
But that system and the issue with him is he'll never be good enough. I mean, he'll never be a top 10 quarterback. He'll never be a top even 14 or 15 quarterback, I think it's unfortunate for Miami that they passed on Herbert, but I would have done the same thing. So that's why I'm not an NFL GM.
Yeah, but I mean, this offense, you look at the wide receiver room, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. I mean, these guys are all so young. It's just unreal. This team is going to dominate the AFC North, and some of the most underrated defensive players in the world are on this team. I mean, Trey Hendrickson, this guy has been an absolute machine this year. This guy's one of the best edge rushers in the NFL, and most, if you're a casual fan, you've not heard of that guy. Chidobe Awuzie's played great this year. Sam Hubbard's underrated. Mike Hilton's played well. I mean, Jesse Bates, one of the top safeties in the league.
It's their best player on defense.
Yeah, and Evan McPherson. I mean, this kid, I believe rookie kicker, he's had a very good year as well. I mean, these are just little things, but this Cincy Bengals team, I mean, they've had their ups and downs this year. They're legit. This team and this offense is not going away anytime soon. I think they can beat any team in the AFC. As we've seen, they beat the Chiefs. Do I think they'd beat the Chiefs again? Probably not. You see the game they had to have, like you said, to beat the Chiefs. And I feel like the Chiefs in this one, I mean, their offense just kind of, that's one thing, I mean, about the Chiefs. And I don't want to see this in the NFL. It's like, just don't step off the gas. I mean, I felt like the Chiefs kind of stepped off the gas and lost their momentum. You just got to keep going, and you just got to keep pushing.
Really, the Chiefs dominated this game for like 2.5 quarters. Yeah. This wasn't even a close game. And then they really, like you said, they took their foot off the gas.
Yeah. I mean, in these games, I mean, look, I don't think they're going all out. But, I mean, for the 1 seed, they maybe should have. So, this team, I mean, we'll just see what they can do. But obviously, we know they're the Kansas City Chiefs. I mean, Travis Kelce, though, in general, they need to get this guy. I mean, we saw what he did in that Thursday night football game against the Chargers. They need to start getting this guy the ball more. 5 catches for 25 yards just can't happen with Travis Kelce. I'm going to be honest. And Tyreek Hill, too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too concerned about the Chiefs, honestly, from any perspective. I think they're going to – because I just think they're so much better than every other team in the AFC. Like, I just don't think, like – that Bengals O-line, man, playoff football is different, obviously. And an O-line like that usually gets exposed in the playoffs. So,
yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be good to see for sure. I don't know if there are really any other games. I mean, Raiders, Colts, we'll kind of talk about those two teams when talking about this week. Obviously, huge playoff implications. Your Birds, we'll talk about in a second. They obviously clinched the playoffs. A shocking playoff team, to say the least. I want to hear your thoughts on Hurts and all of them. I mean, let's talk. This will be the last game we touch on before we go. Cardinals, Cowboys. I mean, Dallas Cowboys, this team, they come off, a mega win over Washington, and people are calling this team, Super Bowl contenders team, and then you see this. I mean, it's really interesting. I mean, this Dallas team, I think they're good, but against these really good teams, they've just not been the same kind of team.
You want to know something?
This Cardinals team we've seen without DeAndre Hopkins, they've struggled, and in this one offensively, I mean, it was just they were just moving the ball like they wanted to. I mean, we saw Dallas kind of get closer late, but what are your thoughts? I mean, obviously Zeke Elliott 9 for 16, kind of a joke, but I mean, what are your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys right now after this game?
I'm just appalled and disgusted about the fact that if the Eagles had just not lost that game, which they blew horribly to the San Francisco 49ers or to the New York Giants earlier in the year, the Eagles-Cowboys game tonight would be for the division. It's so frustrating. I think the Cowboys are mid. They're not as good as any of the other contenders. I think they're very beatable in the playoffs. They're so banged up too right now.
Yeah, they've got COVID, I think, running through them potentially. They've got something.
And Dak has just not looked like the Dak of earlier in the season for the first 5 or 6 games of the season. And then he came back, obviously, against Washington in a big way after being off about 8 or so weeks. But Washington football team is bad. I saw it. I think playing them at home also, they only beat them by a touchdown on the road. I don't know. It's just – I thought this was a game the Cowboys were going to win because I thought the Cardinals were fading, and I really thought they might have even gotten that 6th wild card spot. But now they have a chance to win the division still. I just think the Cowboys, they're just so mid. I don't even know. I don't have another adjective. They're just like – I think that defense – I think Trayvon Diggs, obviously. I think there are a lot of questions to be asked about Trayvon Diggs. I think, obviously, they're let up a big completion to AJ Green. Yeah, he produces those turnovers, but I don't know if you saw, he's going to allow probably the most yard. He's probably going to allow one of the 3 most receiving yards in the history of a season this week if he plays.
I think he's out tonight with an illness.
Is he?
Yeah.
I know the. Yeah, he is. You're right. He's stuck in Devontae clearly. But yeah, I think the Cowboys. I just don't think they're good enough, and I think obviously they really don't have a rushing game anymore to take that pressure off of Dak because Dak is just. I think so much of this is just relying on Dak and how he plays because that stat line I don't really think is indicative of how good he actually was. I mean, I don't think he was very good, and I think it's just dependent on how good he is if he fully is Dak Prescott in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that they're banged up, like you said. I mean, Michael Gallup, he's out for the year with 20 ACL, and that was a big piece for them, honestly. I mean, just having him at your third receiver. I know Cedric Wilson's played well, but it's not the same guy. Tony Pollard's out tonight. So they're banged up. I disagree with you in that they're mid. I think maybe they're not on these level of the teams like the Green Bay Packers. I'd probably still put the Bucs over them if they can get their guys back for the playoffs. Probably the Rams as well, but I mean, this team is still good. They can still – I mean, I don't think they're going to be in the Super Bowl, but could they beat those teams? Theoretically, sure. Do I see it? Probably not. But, I mean, this defense, you got to give them credit. They played really well, and that D-line has really played well. Micah Parsons has looked like an absolute superstar this year. People forget about DeMarcus Lawrence. He's a very good player. They do a good job. A lot of good safeties in that secondary as well that they kind of rotate in and out. I agree. Trevon Diggs, I mean, he's one of the guys that – gives up a lot of yards, but at the same time hasn't really allowed too many touchdowns this year. So, I mean, the jury on him, it's still really unknown. This guy's a great ball hawking cornerback, though, and being able to force turnovers is a very valuable thing, and that can't go unnoticed. Offensively, I mean, look, Zeke Elliott has looked good at times. He's looked bad at times. He's been banged up. I mean, I don't even know what to say about Zeke Elliott. I think he's at this point, peaked, obviously, and is just in a downward spiral, slowly but surely fading away. I mean, I'd like to see this team use Amari Cooper more is my one thing. 3 catches for 18 yards and a touchdown. This guy's – we've seen him be one of the top receivers in this league, and their lack of usage towards him. I mean, even CeeDee Lamb only had 3 catches. I mean, they just got to get guys more involved, and until they do that, they're not gonna be competing. So we'll see what happens. Dak Prescott, I mean, he cannot play as he did last week, and I mean, this team will get bounced quick if that's the case. I still think they're a good team. Flip side, I mean, Cardinals, I believe Cardinals are another team that will get bounced relatively quickly in the playoffs just because without D-Hop, I think that offense is just not the same. I know they played pretty well this week, but it's just a different level of that offense. And DeAndre Hopkins is in there just due to the coverage he draws and all of that. But we'll see. JJ Watt might come back, so maybe I'm sleeping on the Cardinals. But as of now, I'm not exceptionally high on them, to be honest.
Yeah.
All right, let's go and do our games for this week. Obviously, the Chiefs, looks like Denver just scored. Drew Lock had a 5-yard rushing touchdown, it looks like. Denver's such a weird team.
They have the talent to be competing, but their head coaching and quarterback situation is bad.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty bad. But we're not going to predict that game. Eagles. I know what you're going to say, obviously, with this game. But I'm going to start. I'm going to start here. I am going to pick the Dallas Cowboys. I still believe they're a better team than the Philadelphia Eagles. I think this season for the Philadelphia Eagles has been an exceptional season. I think Jalen Hurts, really, I think franchise QB, giving a mega deal to him, I think that's still potentially undecided. But this guy will be the quarterback next year. There's no question about that. And probably the year after that even. He's a great player. This team is pretty good. I just think Dallas is that defense. We saw them give the Eagles trouble a little bit earlier in the year. I know they're banged up, but I still feel the Dallas Cowboys are the better team. We'll see what happens, obviously, but I'm going to pick them. But Eagles, I mean, what a shocker of a season. They've played really well. Give credit where credit is due. I mean, they've had some guys play really well. Dallas Goedert's played really well at times. I mean, the future's definitely bright. 3 first-round picks this year. Obviously, at one point, we thought those would be 3 top 10 picks, and that has not aged quite the way that the Eagles have hoped to. But regardless, great year, 3 first-round picks. You couldn't really ask for more if you're an Eagles fan right now.
Yeah, I mean, I just think, like, I don't know if I can really predict this game because it's going to be like Gardner Minshew versus Cooper Rush because none of the starters are going to be playing.
Is Dak out and all them out?
I think both teams are resting their starters because they're going to not play their starters for the majority of the game. At least the Eagles. Eagles elevate 10 practice squad players.
Yeah, Hurts isn't going to play.
Yeah, just because. So I don't know.
I think Dallas has to win though because I think they can really improve their spot if they win.
Well, it's like if everybody else loses and Dallas wins, they can get the 2 seed. But like that's like extremely unlikely. That's like the Rams. That's like the Cardinals lose, the Rams lose, and the Buccaneers lose, and they get the 2 seed. But it doesn't really matter because the Eagles, there's like a 95% chance for the Eagles that if they win or lose, they're going to end up playing the Bucs either way. That's like 95%. The first round matches really have nothing to play for. So I guess I'll pick the Cowboys tonight because it seems like they have more to play for than the Eagles. But both of these teams, I would imagine, are not going to be playing their starters that long.
Yeah. This next game, I don't even think we really have to touch on. I'm going to pick the Washington football team, the New York Football Giants. Just an absolute terrible football team. We're going to talk about them a lot in the offseason and what steps they can take because this is a team right now that is just – it's really in a hole and it's going to take a lot to get out of that hole. And they've dug themselves in a tough spot, but we'll see. I'm going to go Washington. I'm not really going to describe why, but they're just a better team.
New York Football Giants. I mean, Griffin, I don't think people realize how bad of a franchise they are, but like
those 2 Super Bowls definitely helped recently with Eli.
They do, but it's just like
it's becoming old news at this point. Yeah, it's not the same situation.
Just because you can savor a Super Bowl for longer when over the last 5 leagues, there 5 seasons, there are 2 teams tied for the worst record, and it's the Jets and the Giants. So I mean, and I think the Jets are obviously on a much higher. I think they have a much brighter future than the Giants. I think they have much more talent. I mean, the Kenny Golladay deal, what a disaster. Lane Johnson has more touchdowns than Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney combined this season.
Kadarius Toney is just an injury. I mean, I saw something that he has missed 6 games this year due to 6 different injuries.
That's absurd. But yeah, I'm going to go Washington here, obviously. I don't think Washington is like good, but I don't think they're in the terrible tier of teams like the Giants, Jaguars, Texans. So yeah, I'm going to go Washington here. And then I'll leave us in the next game here. I'm going to go with the Bengals. I mean, Griffin, I know you're partial towards the Browns, obviously. I know you're a big Baker fan, but I mean, he's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. He obviously should have gotten that surgery, but I mean, he costed himself a lot of money. Who knows if he'll ever be that quarterback, even a decent quarterback. I mean, this guy has really been a bottom 3, bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL over the past 7 or 8 weeks, and he's been terrible down that stretch. I mean, the Browns have obviously had a lot of injury problems, starting with their quarterback, but I mean, what a brutal season for them. I mean, as we're going into the last week of the year, what a horrible, horrible season for the Cleveland Browns, a team that many thought would even come out of the AFC as their Super Bowl representatives. I mean, and they are eliminated, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, they're eliminated before the final week of the season. I mean, I'm interested to hear your thoughts, Griff.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Cleveland Browns were the NFL's most disappointing team this season, I would say, by far. What a disaster it really was. And look, the whole Baker Mayfield thing it's obviously a tough situation. I think the Browns have to ride it out one more year. There's no quarterback talent that they're going to be picking in this year's draft. I'd really like to see this team go out and draft like a Garrett Wilson from Ohio State in this upcoming draft for their draft pick. I'm going to pick the Bengals in this one. Both teams don't have starting quarterbacks, and I think the the Browns are just awful. Even with Nick Chubb, I mean, just a mess. But with Baker Mayfield, I mean, I think he got hurt like week 2 or something like that. I mean, it's just been a nightmare of a season at this point for them. And I mean, Baker's been awful. He's lost them a lot of games this year. There's no excuses for that. I think he's not a great quarterback at all. I don't think he's a franchise quarterback at this point. I just think the Browns are in a situation where they're going to have to ride him out one more year and just see what happens. The trade value is nothing at this point for him. He's not going to get extended or anything. So I think we're going to see Cleveland probably ride out Baker Mayfield for one more year, see what can happen. Obviously, see what he can have with the surgery. We'll see, Jack Conklin, their star right tackle, all pro the year before. He's been basically out this whole season. Kareem Hunt's been out a lot. Chubb's been out at times. So, I mean, this team, the secondary has been beat up. They've had a lot of injuries. Regardless, though, Myles Garrett's been hurt. I mean, you could go on and on about the injuries. COVID hit them hard. It's just a really unfortunate season for the Cleveland Browns. I think they can bounce back, but like you said, that quarterback play, it's all going to depend on Baker Mayfield. Next year we're going to see, was the injury really significant to where it hindered him that much and we really saw him play that bad, or is he just not the guy? I think next year is going to be that make it or break it year.
Really, this is a very 2020 Carson Wentz-esque season for me. So yeah.
Yeah. I think, he played, but the thing is, the year before Baker Mayfield was good. He, played right into the system. So we just got to see. I mean, there's been rumblings that he might ask for a trade, which is absolutely ridiculous because no one at this point wants him. So we'll see. We'll obviously another team, the Giants and the Browns, both in the offseason will be discussed heavily. I think that Browns first round pick, though, could be very useful to them. I'd love to see them go get another wide receiver. Like, I think Garrett Wilson would be an exceptional draft pick for them. With the Ohio State connection, I think that is the perfect pick for the fan base and for this team. I think they're just missing that, I think, flash on offense as well. So we'll see. This next game, Steelers, Ravens, both teams theoretically still in the playoffs. It's going to be Tyler Huntley for the Ravens. Could be Big Ben's last game of his career. I'm going to pick the Ravens at home. I mean, I think both of these teams aren't really good. But I think the Steelers, Big Ben played well last week, sure, but I think that's a one-off. Najee Harris also played really well. So I'm going to go with the Ravens here. Tyler Huntley's played pretty well when he's been in there. So we'll see. But
yeah, I think Tyler Huntley's probably going to get a chance to compete for a starting job next year somewhere. I think he's actually been pretty good since stepping into that backup role. But in the Ravens, it's pretty crazy because their luck in one-score games has just completely shifted to the other side this year. It's almost like they're getting punished for winning all those.
They did that to themselves, though. They've gone for 2 now, twice to win the game. That's going to be a decision that's going to haunt that franchise potentially. If they miss the playoffs this year. Not franchise, but haunt the team this year.
The issue is, I think the thing John Harbaugh is like sort of considering is like, I don't have Lamar, so like, whatever.
It's been tough.
Yeah.
Well, they had Lamar for one of those games, I believe. But the other one, I don't think. The Steelers one, I don't think they had. Or maybe the Steelers one they did.
Did they have him, though? I thought Huntley played in that game. Green
Bay game, Huntley played. I think the Steelers game, it might have been Lamar. Let me check real quick. But yeah, keep going on what you were saying.
I'm really
Lamar played the Steelers game.
I'd like to see. I'm going to pick the Ravens this week. I'd like to see the Ravens get Lamar a couple more. I just think they need to improve at the wide receiver position. I've said it for years, but the COVID and the injuries really, really killed them. I'm not going to trash them or anything. I really think they're in the Steelers might make the playoffs, but they're in such a better position than the Steelers. It's really crazy. That Big Ben. I don't know if you've seen like the passing charts of like the yards per attempts and whatnot. That one from Sunday night, or I think believe it or Monday night, whenever it was, that was an all timer, man. I mean, it was like the shortest. He had like a 2.7 yards per attempt, which is like the lowest in years. I mean, this guy needs to retire. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'll go to the next game here. I mean, we're gonna pick the Packers. I actually, you know what? The Packers are gonna rest all their starters, aren't they?
Aaron Rodgers is playing
He
to keep
is.
the momentum going. Yeah, I think with the toe, they want him to maybe play, or he wants to play just so it doesn't stiffen up with the bye too.
No shot he
So he's
plays
going
the
to be
whole
playing.
thing now, right?
I think he's planning to play. I mean, unless it gets to a blowout, I think he's going to play as long as he
All
can.
right, I'll go with the Packers here.
Yeah,
I'll go.
I'm gonna pick the Packers too. Amon-Ra St. Brown, though, real quick, has just been he was a fantasy league winner for I'm sure many people out there, but
Yeah.
I mean, this guy has really come onto the scene, at least a bright spot for the Lions, who have found ways to win games, but another one of those franchises that just seems in a tricky spot. They're really at the start of their rebuild this year. They'll have a top pick. I believe number 2 right now is where they're picking. So we'll see what happens. Next game, if the Colts win, they're in against Jacksonville. I saw something that I think the Colts are like they haven't won in Jacksonville since like 2014 or something crazy. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I saw something like that. I'm going to pick the Colts regardless, though, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if Jonathan Taylor rushed the ball for 35 times in this game. I think he's just going to get the ball like crazy. You have to give it to him. I mean, Carson Wentz, yeah, he'll do what he does, but this is a must-win game, and Jonathan Taylor should see the ball a lot. I think the Colts are, they last week was a tough loss to the Raiders, who I can't believe are going to be in a spot where they might make the playoffs after all this year. But yeah, I'm going to take Indianapolis. I still think the Colts. The interesting thing about them is they might get bounced in the first round, but this is also a team because of that ability to run the football. They could make a run, and it's very weird. Even with Carson Wentz at quarterback, they've got guys on that defense, and just because you have that strong of a run game with Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines being that change of pace back, they can theoretically the Colts could beat anyone, which is interesting, but they could also lose to anyone. Very interesting team that I think is one of those lower seeded teams that we could see make a run. So I'm excited to see what happens. I think they'll win this game, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick the Colts here too. But if they lost, oh my God, that would be what an all-time choke that would be, Griffin.
Yeah,
I mean, that
absolutely.
would be. Yeah, but I'm gonna go with the Colts here. I think they're probably gonna get bounced in the first round just because of who they have at quarterback. But I do agree. I think there's a similar situation to the Eagles where they're so strong at running the ball. It's sort of they're gonna compete with anybody just because of the amount of time that they have the ball. It's hard to sort of get the ball out of their hands. I mean, but yeah, I'm going to go with the Colts here to win this game.
This next game, I mean, who even cares? I'm going to pick the Vikings. These teams are, both missed the playoffs. Vikings, another disappointing year. Kirk played decent, but I mean, this team.
That should be the mantra of the franchise. Another disappointing year.
Well, they've had good playoff wins. I mean, you can't even. They've had a lot
they've
of.
had like one. They've had one good playoff.
I believe
they've had one good playoff win, and it resulted in nothing.
They've beaten the Saints twice. I know they beat the Saints
on
the Minneapolis Miracle, but they beat them.
They did, but
2 years ago.
God, I hate the Saints and the Vikings so much. I hate.
Well, yeah, the Eagles beat the Vikings in their Super Bowl round, correct?
They crushed them 38-7.
Yeah. Was that the game? Was Diggs out or something like that? They had something weird, right? Or no? I don't know. I remember something.
They just got killed.
All right. Next game, Titans playing for the 1 seed against Houston, who I believe beat them early in the year. So this is actually an interesting game. Rex Burkhead's been playing well. Davis Mills has looked good. I'm going to go with Tennessee, though. I mean, I would love to see the Texans. I think the Titans. I mean, if this team somehow makes the Super Bowl, I'd be absolutely shocked. But
they're going to get bounced the first.
Yeah, I mean, this is with Ryan Tannehill this year has just been atrocious, to be honest. He's not been good, but he's just a game manager. I'm not going to talk about. I'm going to pick the Titans. I think they'll figure it out. They'll win this game. That game they lost was also a weird game with the weather. I believe it was raining and all that, so should be good. Clear skies in Houston, Texas. Even the Titans.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Texans. Or I'm going to go with the Titans here as well. I think there's just too much on the line, and I think the Titans are just not a good enough team to put up a fight that has as much on the line as the Titans do, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Next game, I'm gonna go with the Saints here. The Falcons. I don't know if you're an analytics guy, but when the Falcons were like half a game out of the playoff race, DVOA is like a composite ranking of like offenses or like offenses and defenses that sort of like just like how they are. It sort of just like makes yards more valuable. So like something it'll be like if yards like a 50-yard completion to like start the game off to a receiver isn't the same as at the end of the game when a team is down 24 or something like that, right? So that's sort of what it takes into account. So the Falcons were ranked 32nd in that, and they were 7-8. And they just were scraping by the worst team in the leagues, and even teams in the league. And even when they played somebody half decent like the Eagles, they got destroyed. I mean, I'm going to go with the Saints here. I think the Falcons are bad. I cannot believe we might see Taysom Hill start a playoff game. I think it's really a plausible scenario at this point. I really do. I mean, I think there's a chance. There's a big chance the 49ers lose to the Rams.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I'm going to pick the Saints too. I mean, this team's played pretty bad recently, but I'll give them the win. I think the Falcons are just not a good team at all. Yeah, I'm not really going to get into it. Cardinals, Seahawks. Pick the Cardinals, I guess. I mean, the Seahawks played well last week. That Jets pick slowly but surely is ticking up. I mean, best they finished 7-10. I think they'll still be top 10. I don't know. I think the Cardinals are just better. So yeah, give me them.
I'm gonna go with the Cardinals here as well. I think the Seahawks are just gonna blow it all up in the offseason. They're gonna fire Pete Carroll. My guess. I would be shocked if Russell Wilson was still the quarterback there next year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
you have to blow it up. This next game, I mean, we'll take the Bills. I'm not even gonna like talk about that. The Panthers, Bucks for me. I mean, even banged up, they'll win.
I'm gonna get the Bucks. I can't believe the Panthers are giving Matt Rule another year. The thing to me with the NFL that's so interesting is like, why are we rewarding mediocre or like below mediocrity? But why are you even rewarding mediocrity? We know the NFL is elite, where only the best of the best win. Andy Reid, Andy Reid, Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and look at the quarterbacks. Obviously, you know what I'm trying to say. But I just don't get why you're rewarding something that's very obviously just not working. He fired Joe Brady, who was supposed to be one of the brightest young minds in the sport. I mean, it's sort of ridiculous. I just can't believe they're giving him another opportunity. And I like Matt Rule because he used to coach Temple, which obviously is pretty close to where I live. My mom went there, but he's just not it, in my opinion.
Yeah, he'll be out of the NFL once he's fired, because he's not going to make it to all 7 years of that contract. Yeah. That's for sure. Pats, Dolphins. I'm going to pick the Dolphins in this one.
Griffin.
They already beat the Pats this year, and I feel like the Dolphins always just beat the New England Patriots in Miami. It's just one of those things. Did the Patriots clinch yet, or could they miss the playoffs?
No, the Patriots clinched. They have a lot to play for because actually they might not. But
I don't know if they've clinched.
No, they have clinched, I believe, because they're 10-6. They definitely have clinched. If the Bills lose to the Jets, though, and they beat the Dolphins, they win the AFC East.
I'm going to pick the Dolphins. I don't know. Weird feeling.
I'm going to pick the Patriots here, and this would help the Eagles. The Dolphins are so bad. Look at the teams they beat on the 7-game win streak.
You want me to pull it up?
Yeah, look at this. And look at the scores by which they beat them.
I mean, imagine they beat the Jaguars and the Falcons, bro.
Yeah, but look at the teams they beat. Watch. Go to the 7-game win streak. Just go
Texans,
to the 7.
Ravens, Jets, Panthers, Giants, Jets, Saints with like Ian Book.
With Ian. I mean, come on.
The crazy thing is if they beat the Jags and the Falcons, they would be in the playoffs.
That might be one of the weakest schedules I've ever seen.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Yeah. I mean, the Eagles are going to end up with the top 12. The Dolphins not having their first round pick, or do they have someone's first round pick?
Maybe San Francisco.
Maybe San Francisco is right. But yeah, I mean, the Dolphins trading, not good.
They must have San Francisco's pick, I guess.
Yeah, I think they do. Yeah. But yeah, the Dolphins, Eagles will have a top 12 pick, I think, if they go 8 and 9. So I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, and then obviously the others will be decided. Imagine Colts, Eagles, Super Bowl, and then the Colts win, and both your picks are just that's. I mean, I guess
Colts, Eagles, Super Bowl. I mean, If the
Yeah.
Colts Eagles Super Bowl happened, that would be
Carson Wentz beats the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Oh my God.
Carson Wentz will have his legs shattered into like 4 pieces before he even makes a playoff run. Jalen Hurts is 4 months younger making his playoff debut than Carson Wentz was making his NFL debut.
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Rams, 49ers. I'm gonna pick the I'm gonna go with the Rams. I'm gonna go. Is it Trey Lance? It's probably Trey Lance. Does it say?
No, it is Trey Lance. It is Trey Lance, I believe.
Yeah, I mean Trey Lance is just. I
think the
mean,
Rams
even
are.
with the win last week.
You really think the Rams are that good though?
I don't think the Rams are that great. No, I think they're a good team, but I mean, I think they're a level above the Dallas Cowboys. I think they're kind of with the Bucks and the.
I think they're better. No, I think the Packers and the Bucks are better than them.
I don't know. The Bucks are banged up, man. Like the Bucks right now, without Chris Godwin, now you don't have AB at wide receiver. You're pretty weak. You've got guys like Leonard Fournette. He's out. Who knows if he'll be back? You got Levante David, Shaq Barrett's banged up. JPP's banged. I mean, there's just a lot of guys injured on that team.
I mean, it's fair.
Full health, absolutely, but they're just not healthy.
I just think Matthew Stafford has been pretty underwhelming, man. I really do. Especially
he's been bad. I think he's dealing with some injuries. He said so.
I mean, yeah. Sure.
I don't know. He has not been great though. I mean, Cooper Kupp is a great player though. I'm gonna pick. This one's so weird. I mean, the 49ers are. I'm gonna pick Trey Lance. I can't pick Trey Lance. I'm gonna go with the Rams. Trey Lance has been good, but he's just been too inconsistent for me to really go up and beat a good Rams team, a good Rams defense that, with Jalen Ramsey, Von Miller, Aaron Donald, just gonna be too much to handle, I think, for the young bucks. So I'm gonna go with the Rams. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rams here too. And I think based on both of our predictions, that's gonna leave the 49ers out of the playoffs.
Yeah. Which is weird.
Wow, that's not good. Not good for the Niners, though. They thought they were going to compete in this division. I mean, if you had told a Niners fan that they were going to miss the playoffs in favor of the Eagles, what would you have said? What would they have said at the beginning of the year? They would have probably been pretty incensed. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Rams here. And I think
then this is for the playoffs, I believe. Chargers, Raiders.
Yeah.
Who are you sending to the playoffs in
Well,
Vegas?
if the Colts lose, do you know if the Colts lose?
Oh my God.
Well, what will they do though? Because the smart thing to do is just to knee 3 times.
You should knee the ball, absolutely.
But will they do it? Will the NFL let them do it?
I doubt it. I don't think the NFL would intervene. I just don't think these teams would do that, to be honest.
Yeah, but you would do it. If it was you,
I'd absolutely do.
If you and I were to do it. Think about how big, especially as an interim head coach. Think about how big about just getting your team into the playoffs. Or Brandon Staley, why would you not just want your team? This is all.
These teams both need, if they both make the playoffs, that'd be absolutely huge for their franchises. Because the Chargers right now, if the Chargers miss the playoffs, it's another underwhelming season. Another kind of that's a big failure if they miss the playoffs. And for the Raiders, a great step forward for the future. Part of me does want the Colts to lose to see what happens. I do think they'll play the game and not knee it.
What they should have done is put the 2 game is either put the Chargers Raiders game earlier or put them on at the same time.
I know that they did the Chargers Raiders since it is theoretically win and you're in, but
right.
They messed up big. I'm sure the NFL knows that they potentially messed up big time by doing that. Because that's just awful. I mean, that sucks for the NFL. I mean, especially Sunday Night Football, the last Sunday Night Football of the year, and you've got 2 teams kneeing the ball out. I mean, that's
but I think that's the smart strategy. I
agree. That's what you got to do. But will it happen? I just can't see it. The nature of the NFL, it just doesn't seem like teams.
Yeah, it seems too competitive, right? I mean,
I think if you do that too, I mean, the other 30 teams in the league, I mean, they're just not going to have respect for you. I feel like if you do that, that's just to me.
If you start winning, people forget. The Eagles being an example, obviously, after blatantly tanking, and then making the playoffs next year. So yeah, I mean, it's the same type of thing. I mean, it's just very interesting. I really want to see it, and that's why I'm really kind of rooting for the Colts to lose heavy, even though I think they won't.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like what will happen. That's kind of it's like a what if scenario. If this game does happen, I mean, this is going to be the tale of Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, when he plays good, this team won't lose. But he's been inconsistent at times for sure. We've seen that in the Houston game. We've seen that against Denver this season. He's not looked good. Did they win last week against Denver? They might have.
Yeah, they did, I believe.
Yeah, okay. So I guess the first game against Denver, he was not great.
I still think the Chargers are a pretty good team, man. I got to be honest with you. And I
And
think
their defense is too suspect, I think, for me.
Yeah, but like you said, I think it's their defense. But I think Justin Herbert is still among the best of the best. And I think you'd probably agree with me there. I think he's a little bit consistent, but he's still among the best of the best. I'm going to go with the Chargers here just because I really can't fathom the Raiders even being in the playoffs because, I mean, that's
everything they've dealt with. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But so I'm going to go with the Chargers here because I do think they have a much better quarterback. Although Derek Carr is a really good quarterback. I think he's obviously he's a good leader. But I do think Justin Herbert is much better, and that's what's going to separate them. And I'm going to go with the Chargers here if this game does happen.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a game to watch, but I'm going to go with the Chargers here too. I think they're the better team. I don't know if Darren Waller's playing, but he's been out for so long.
Of course, the Raiders will win.
Yeah, I'm sure the Raiders will be going to the playoffs, probably winning the Super Bowl at this point. I mean, this is just one of the most weird teams, the Vegas Raiders. They go and beat the Colts last week. They've beaten, the Dallas Cowboys. They've just beaten these teams that you just don't expect them to beat. But then they lose to these teams that you really don't expect them to lose to. It's just the weirdest team in the history of the NFL, honestly. Like the weirdest. It's year in and year out they do this too. They did the same stuff last year. The same. They were like 8-8, and they lost to the teams they should have beat, and they won against good teams. It's just so weird. They lost to Washington this year. I mean, what a weird team. I mean, I actually want to look. I'm going to pick the Chargers, and then we'll wrap this up.
Giants.
They beat the Ravens, which week 1, you wouldn't say they would have beaten the Ravens. They beat the Steelers, probably still an underrated win. They beat the Dolphins. They lose to the Chargers. They lose to the Bears. They get killed by the Bears.
Brutal.
They beat the Broncos. They beat the Eagles. They lose to the football Giants, killed by the Chiefs.
So imagine they beat the football Giants and they beat the Bears. They're at 11-5 for the division.
But they've lost to Washington, the Giants.
Oh,
they barely beat the Browns.
I mean they're scraping by teams. They're scraping by. They're scraping by.
Oh my God. Well, I think that will do it for this week's episode of Outside the Arena. Thank you guys so much for watching. Next week is playoff week in the NFL, first week, so that's gonna be very exciting. And yeah, make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you already haven't. Check us out on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of that. And yeah, we'll see you next week on Outside the Arena.